Welcome to the Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019 regular business meeting of the EBMUD Board of Directors. Seems a little unbalanced.
Space over here.
It's okay to sit on the left. Okay.
Just an electron.
Thank you, Dave. The Sustainability and Energy Committee and the Finance Administration Committees met earlier today, and they will, what they did will be recorded under item 13. Could we have roll call, please?
Directors Coleman,
Present.
Katz,
Present.
Lenny,
Here.
McIntosh,
Here.
Mellon,
Present.
Patterson,
Present.
President Young.
Here. Can we have the pledge of allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is there anyone with these cards? Anyone here for public comment? Okay. Let's proceed. Oh, we have, I'm sorry, forgot. We have, I skipped a whole bunch of stuff. Let's go back. We don't have any public comment. We'll come back and give another shot for public comment. We have presentation. We have one presentation.
Yes, we have received an award and we'd like to present it. To present the award, we'd like to have Director Katz present it. And so this is an award, the district's received an award from the California Municipal Utilities Association, CMUA. We received their 2019 Best Energy Program Award for a medium-sized utility for the Resource Recovery Program. The award was presented at its annual conference in San Diego. CMUA represents the interests of community-owned water and electric utilities throughout California. The Energy Program Award is given to utilities that demonstrate innovative and effective approaches in implementing renewable energy resources and strategies for greenhouse gas reduction. The district's Resource Recovery Program utilizes excess digester capacity to convert commercial and industrial food processing wastes into biogas and renewable electricity. As a result, the district's main wastewater treatment plant was the first in North America to become a net energy producer and export significant amounts of renewable energy to the grid. The district's Resource Recovery Program is a model for other agencies to transform waste products into valuable resources. It is a significant trend that recovers resources, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and generates additional revenue to offset rising wastewater treatment costs. Many district employees worked together to develop and continuously operate the program. And I'd like to acknowledge a number of them who have contributed and are here today. And what we'd like to do is have you, as I call your names, if you could come up, and if I miss anybody, please come up, and then we'll take a photo opportunity here. So the first is Cheryl Franklin, Assistant Wastewater Shift Supervisor, Matt Heft, Senior Civil Engineer, Michael Hyatt, Associate Civil Engineer, Iris Kahn, Chemist 2, Lillian Leon, Associate Civil Engineer, Ken Ma, Assistant Wastewater Shift Supervisor, Morte Mendoza, Wastewater Control Representative, Robert Molina, Chemist 2, Ryan Quezada, Plant Mechanical Maintenance Supervisor. We also are exhibiting a poster prepared by staff for the CMUA Annual Conference. It will be represented by Eva August, Associate Civil Engineer. And so for that, I truly appreciate all the efforts that staff has made in this area over the years. Director Katz can present the award. Thank you very much.
On that board, thank you for all of your hard work in making this program something that the district can be proud of.
Thank you. Okay, announcements from closed session. There are no announcements from closed session today. One more shot at public comment. Okay, moving on. We have the consent calendar. We're going to pull item 1. Are there any other requests to pull items, or do we have a motion to move
Items 2 through 8.
I'll second.
all those in favor of moving items 2 through 8?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. For item 1, basically the version of the minutes submitted for our approval is a corrected version from the one that we had earlier. So just wanted to flag that for folks. I have a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that was adopting our minutes from the April 9th, 2019 meeting. All right, with that, we are on to determination and discussion. Item 9, we'll have a second reading of and enact an ordinance amending our regional private sewer lateral ordinance, number 35913, as previously amended. Specifically sections 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 18 thereof.
Okay, well, thank you, President Young. I would just remind the board that we've provided a presentation in February to the Planning Committee. We came to the board in March and provided an update on your general manager report. In April, the last board meeting, we provided the first reading. So now we're here for the second reading. And we don't have a presentation planned unless you view that you need one. If you take action today, then the effective date would be in May, as noted in the materials.
I'm fine with this. I just was wondering, why are we doing May instead of going on the calendar year of we need to go July 1 for the budget?
Well, I mean, in general, this happens at 30 days after you take action. That's how the public hearing process works for this. And so it's not linked to the budget in any way. But if you'd like to.
No, we don't need, I was just curious why, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Mellon, seconded by Director Coleman. Any further discussion? Okay, shall we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I always forget to vote when I say this, all those in favor part. Anyone opposed? Yeah. Okay, passes unanimously. Item 10.
So those board members who are also on the retirement board are familiar with this action, which is to make a change to the EBMUD Employees Retirement System Ordinance to update the actuarially assumed rate of return from 7.25% to 7.0%. And we have Lisa Serrani here, our Manager of Employee Services, to provide a brief presentation.
Yes. So as Alex said, President Young and the board, I'm here to give an introduction and first reading related to this retirement system ordinance change. So effectively, our retirement ordinance is Ordinance 40. Section 21 provides for an optional modification of a member's retirement allowance to provide an actuarially equivalent allowance for a surviving beneficiary. The actuarially assumed rate of return is used to calculate the optional beneficiary allowance in that Section 21. It's also used in cash outs, and it's used in posting of interest to employee accounts. The district's plan actuary recommended a change to the actuarially assumed rate of return at the September 20th, 2018 Retirement Board meeting as part of their 2018 annual actuarial valuation. The Retirement Board adopted the proposed rate at the September 20th, 2018 meeting. There are IRS regulations that require that the actuarial assumptions used to determine the optional forms of benefits be actually specified in the retirement ordinance. So the proposed update to the retirement ordinance is in section 21, will basically ensure that the language is consistent with the change that was adopted by the retirement board on September 20th, 2018. So the steps that will continue to finalize the adoption of this change to the retirement ordinance is we did our first reading today on April 23rd, 2019. There has to be a second reading and a vote. That will happen on May 14th, 2019. Then the ordinance amendment must be placed in the newspapers for 2 successive weeks. And then the adoption of the ordinance amendment will take effect 30 days after the vote to adopt. So we will publish and distribute copies of the revised ordinance by June 30th, 2019.
Questions? Do we have, I actually have one question that's more of a clarification. So this was adopted in September 2018, half a year ago, by the retirement board. Why, what is it that's caught, this delay between that and bringing it to our
Well,
board?
it was adopted adopted by the board in September to be effective July 1 of the following
Okay.
year. And so honestly, timing was a little bit more getting it closer to the date the change will go into effect.
Okay, so it's because it goes into effect for the upcoming fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, is there a motion?
I move the item.
I think today is just a reading.
Oh, okay.
And then May 14th,
All right. Very
May
good.
14th you will make it.
Very good, thank you. Alrighty, item 11.
Right, so this is the annual opportunity to file the water supply availability deficiency report, and Lena Tam will provide the presentation. She's our Water Resources Planning Environmental Division Manager.
Good afternoon, President Young, board members. At this time, shortly after the state issues its forecast on hydrologic conditions, the board makes formal findings on the adequacy of the district's water supply to serve our customers, to provide water for the environment, and to meet our contractual obligation for a number of irrigation districts on the McHelmy River. We have, I think, at least 100 different agreements, as you probably know, and these agreements date back to the 1920s. These findings that the board makes are based on our projected runoff and our total system storage. And based on the Department of Water Resources forecast, we are expecting to see 1.135 million acre feet of runoff, which is obviously above the average that we see on the McHelmy of 745,000 acre feet. And our total system storage is forecast to be full at the end of the year, at the end of the water year, and our fishery flows are going to be based on above normal year type conditions. Just as a reminder, the board had adopted these drought management guidelines, which is basically the threshold in which we would turn on our supplemental supplies. When our total system storage is above 500,000 acre feet, we deem our water supply to be adequate. When it's below 500,000 acre feet, as you saw, we're at 630. We ask our customers to voluntarily conserve up to 15%. Despite the fact that we are in a year of abundance, our customers are continuing to conserve. This graphic is something that we chart on a monthly basis because we still submit our water use to the State Water Board that came out of the 2014 to 2016 drought period. So the green line is basically what the State Board issues as the baseline. We compare our water use currently to the 2000 level. And so we have here each of the years from 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And the line below the bars below the horizontal line is what the savings that we've been able to achieve during that period. So as you see from 2015 to 2016, our customers are able to achieve at about 22% in water conservation savings when the district's target, our board had asked for a 20% goal during that drought. The state had mandated that we conserve at the 16% level. Since we did not anticipate that we would have any further shortfalls after June of 2016, the State Water Resources Control Board essentially lifted the mandatory conservation of 16%. But in response to the high variability in hydrologic conditions and the intensity and duration of droughts associated with climate change, you have heard there's new legislation from Senator Hertzberg and Assemblymember Friedman, where we are continuing to track our changes because they're starting to actually try to get some data on what mandatory targets in the long term could be implemented throughout the state. So as you can see, even during a year of abundance like 2017 or even this year, our customers are continuing to conserve at about like 12 to 14%. And based on our water year type conditions, we will be flowing about 325 CFS from Comanche Reservoir for fishery purposes. Woodbridge Irrigation District will be receiving their full allocation of 60,000 acre feet. Jackson Valley Irrigation District will be receiving 3,850 acre feet, which is tied to levels at Pardee Reservoir. North San Joaquin Water Conservation District would be getting their 20,000 acre foot in request, but they have not traditionally used that much, so it'll be substantially less in terms of their use. And as Dave will tell you, we are continuing to make flood control releases and to create the space in Pardee and Comanche in anticipation of the snow melt. Based on these hydrologic conditions, we will have surplus water year for a number of different projects, and 2 groundwater projects depend on that determination. The first is the Demonstration Recharge Extraction and Aquifer Management, also known as the DREAM project, which is a partnership with North San Joaquin Water Conservation District for an in-lieu recharge. So we will likely transfer water this year to North San Joaquin based on surplus conditions for that in-lieu recharge program. The Bayside Groundwater Project is based on hydrologic conditions on the upper San Leandro watershed. And last year we injected about 8 million gallons, and this year, depending on hydrologic conditions, we may consider injection as well. Staff is
Are we able to put in more into the DREAM project?
I'm sorry?
Are we able to put in more water into the San Joaquin, the DREAM project?
We can. What happened was last year, North San Joaquin had only put in 100 acre feet, not even 1,000. So the in-lieu project is looking at recharging the groundwater basin through in-lieu transfer of 1,000 acre feet. We're trying to transfer the remainder of the 1,000 acre feet this year, but North San Joaquin is constrained because of the infrastructure repairs that they have to make, and frankly because of the flows this year, some of their infrastructure is underwater at the moment.
What infrastructure is it that they?
The south side pumps?
Okay, so it's pumps from the aqueduct to the
It's from the river directly.
From the river, I'm sorry.
And, I mean, also, I guess if it's underwater, there's recharge happening, right?
We think so.
Should be.
Yeah. So in summary, staff is recommending that the board makes these following 3 findings: that our water supply is sufficient this year, and our projected runoff is going to be based on normal and above year type conditions for fishery flows and for our water rights obligations on the McKelvey, and that we will make a determination of surplus water year type conditions. Be happy to answer any more questions.
Is there an action?
Yes, we need
To
to
approve it?
file the report.
So, Lisa moves to accept, Director McIntosh moves to accept. Second. A chorus. I don't know who spoke first. We'll give it to Bill. Director Patterson. Any questions or other discussion?
A beautiful thing.
Great year. Okay. General Manager's report, item 12. All those in, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? passes unanimously. Item 12, General Manager's Report.
So we're hoping, it didn't get listed, but we still are legit in providing a brief update on the status of water supply. Dave Briggs is going to provide it. It's not so much about supply as it is about managing the melt. And so Dave's just going to talk a little bit about what we'll be doing in the next few months. This is David Briggs, our Manager of Water Operations Department.
Good afternoon, President Young. Good afternoon, Board. So yeah, the good news keeps coming. We'll provide you some information on our water supply that went into forming the foundation for the determination that Lena just walked you through, as well as getting into our springtime operations and how we're going to manage the large snowpack that we've accumulated. The photograph shown here is actually near Highway 49.
Devil's Toilet Bowl.
Excuse me?
Devil's Toilet Bowl.
Last,
Sorry, I broke my wrist. We should not show this.
I'm going to quickly transition to the flow is for about 4,000 CFS in a section of the river right by Highway 49, with maybe some better memories for others. Okay, so we're going to start up top here with the forestation index and the precipitation that we received this year. Over 133% of average through last Sunday night, and that was dominated by the wonderful February that we had up country. And the forecast today is quite warm. It's going to be warm and dry for the next couple of weeks or so. So we might not move the needle much more this year, but will end the year above normal up country. And a little bit less impressive locally here with slightly above average through Sunday night, but again with the forecast that we see in the next 15 days or so. And we're running out of the water year, or the wet season fast. Probably will end locally here slightly below average, if you can believe that.
David, where's the weather station that gets our 25.42 inches?
That's probably an aggregation of several weather stations in the East Bay. And Chris, Eileen,
Yeah, that's correct.
about what,
Yes.
four?
We have four. We have four.
Throughout
in this bay. Yeah.
USL, Brianna, San Pablo? Okay, thank you. But as we've been saying all year, the real story is the snowpack. And this year, compared to averages, more precipitation came as snow than it did in the lower elevations as rain. And so that's why there's a difference between the forestation index of the McElmy watershed, which has lower elevations and has rainfall in that aggregation. Here it's upcountry at 8,000 feet. With snow, and we're well above average. I think many of the ski resorts continue to operate all the way through Easter weekend, and we're still well above average. And looking at some of the totals, the snow depth is a little below 200%, but the water content is above 200%, and only 3 years on record have had more water content at this time of year. So we're in a pretty good club at this point in terms of the snow content, or the water content of the snowpack. Storage-wise, quite full. We've been increasing storage for a couple of months here. We're up to 670,000 acre-feet of storage at this point. The photograph on the left is spilling of Pardee taken last Friday. And you notice in the table 101% of capacity at Pardee. And that's because that water is mounding up while it's waiting in line to go cascading down the spillway through that narrow spillway. So we actually are slightly above, a couple of inches above the spillway at this point in terms of the elevation of Pardee. The big holes in Comanche, we have 90 or 100,000 acre-feet of storage available there. That will be filled while that snow melts. And we should be at 740, 750,000 acre-feet of storage by July 1st. Okay, so how do we manage the snowpack moving forward? On a daily basis, we operate the river with our partners upstream and downstream, PG&E, Woodbridge Irrigation District. We coordinate in all sorts of ways. It is a coordinated operation. Phone calls, emails. We update our release schedule always on our website, so it's publicly available. That's normal. That's what we do on a daily basis. When releases out of Comanche are forecasted to exceed 1,000 CFS, we take it up a notch in terms of our communication protocol. At that point, we are sending out the automated phone messages to a designated list of people who have self-identified along the river, stakeholders, riparian, landowners, as well as people in public safety in San Joaquin County and Lodi. A bunch of others get notified because when the flows get above 1,000 CFS, it starts to become noticeable, and everyone needs to be on the same page and know what to expect. This chart gets
in the vineyards down around Lodi or right below actually the hatchery, like we have in the past, because of the flows. Since now plants are starting to bud open, there may be damage to the vineyards.
Yeah, we're aware. I'll show you in a moment what the scheduled releases are going to be. Hold that thought. Just to get through the notification summary, as I mentioned, under 1,000 CFS, business as usual. We're essentially coordinating among fellow operators up and down the river. Between 1,000 and 5,000 CFS, that's when the enhanced communication begins with the outreach. We had a large stakeholder briefing in Lodi in January where we were able to get 80 people or so there to attend and reacquaint ourselves with who needs to know about us and what our protocols are, and us get to know them, who needs to get this information. I think things have been going relatively smoothly this year. But between 1,000 and 5,000 CFS, that's when those automated phone messages go out. If we're forecasted to exceed 5,000, or actually are at 5,000 CFS, that's an emergency condition. And all those protocols are outlined in our emergency action plan, which is cataloged and characterized in our FERC documents in the emergency action plan. We have never released more than 5,000 CFS, and like to keep it that way. Just to also point out that, North San Joaquin is among those parties who are notified by phone. Of course, the Corps of Engineers is kept in the loop. So just to round it out, what to expect on the river as we move forward. So this is a relatively simple graphic, but there's a lot of information here to share. First is that first half of April, that's real data. That's the green line is inflows into Pardee. The blue line is releases from Comanche. From mid-April onward is our forecasted estimation of what we expect the inflows to Pardee to be and the releases from Comanche. 5,000 is also shown there, way above. Second, notice that the green line is above the blue line for the next few months. That's intentional. We are filling our storage with that snow melt, so inflow will exceed outflow for several months. Third, the releases from Comanche are elevated. They're moderate. We'd like to keep them below 2,400, which, Director Coleman, that is a sensitive point. We know on the river that if we can keep it below 2,500, we can keep most of the landowners in operation and happy. So we're going to try to do that as best we can. But these flows are, considering the year type we've had in the snowpack, these are moderate, and everything will be metered out in a controlled way. So we show the schedule there for all the way through the spring and the summer and the fall. The last thing I would point out on the diagram here is that the snow is going to melt by the end of June. So if you're going to get out there on the river and do some kayaking, I'd suggest going before July 1st. So.
Well, if this is going to be that outflow through the rest of the year, that's actually not horrible. Be a little higher, but good. Over 2,000 CFS is great.
Is there a reason, Dave, that when the bar at the Comanche releases drop precipitously in July and August and go a little bit in September to meet the Corps guidelines, that it can't be at more of an angle for fisheries?
Yeah, this chart is a little deceiving. It's not going to be this, as it's depicted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So essentially, what we're seeing in May and June is the snow is melting. The runoff will roll off. The reality will look far smoother than this, and the peaking in the fall or the pulse flows part of the JSA flows. So they'll perk up for the attraction flows on the river in the fall. But yeah, the reality will be far smoother than this. This is a little deceiving.
So with the increased flows that we're going to have during the salmon migration period, that's going to be more than normal out of Comanche?
Well, this is an above the normal year type, so that will trigger the JSA flows. In terms of the magnitude of the shaping of those pulse flows, we've done them higher than that, and actually that's probably, since it's expressed as a monthly average, that's deceiving. So those individual pulses will probably be higher than that, I imagine.
And are we looking, not directly related to this, but it is, are we looking at getting the agreement with the agencies to put up not the fish screens, but the the walls essentially we have for the fish migration this year. What is the technical term? The things that we had to get the agency's approval. We have problems with the state at one point where we.
Talking about the Delta cross.
Yes.
gates.
Cross channels.
Yeah, the cross channel.
Yeah, I assume, and Mike can also help me with this, but I assume the pulse flows are very well timed with the cross-channel gate closure.
Yeah, there's a lot of coordination between the district and the Bureau as it relates to the operation of the cross-channel gates. So that will happen a lot in the fall. And we will be making sure that we can take advantage of the release that we have to make from storage in order to come down to the rule curve at the beginning of November and use that wisely to attract fish.
And have we talked with the Corps like Sonoma Water has to be able to bend the rule curve based on tracking the storms and release of water in fall? So they now have a new paradigm where the rule curve is not applicable, and when the storms come in, they can release more water ahead of the storms, thus keeping more water behind their dams in the event they go into a drought.
Right, so that's that is a situation that Sonoma County Water Agency was able to negotiate with the Corps to allow them to hold a little bit more water in storage and then use information on pending precipitation to gauge how much they should release. The district has not been in communication with the Corps about that. We don't have the same need. We're much further inland than Sonoma County is. And so we're comfortable with the operation of our current flood control on the
We
reservoir.
weren't during the drought, Alex. We were very concerned during the drought how much water we were going to have to release and not knowing what the next year's water was going to be.
And the board may remember that we actually held additional water in storage. We own the reservoir, unlike Sonoma, who it is a Corps reservoir. So, of course, yes, we continue to communicate with the Corps. We know that what is it, QPI stand for?
Advanced quantification,
Precipitation information is something that's important to track. We're participating in that, but at this point, it hasn't been our initiative. It's been Sonoma's initiative to try to change their rule
I
curve.
guess maybe what I'm asking is not for an answer today because I can't answer it. Is maybe we have at some point in the near future a discussion at one of the committees or at the board to look at seeing what we would need to do to change the rule curve. So when a drought comes, we're not saying, oh my God, we haven't dealt with it yet, but have the protocol in place to be able to pull the trigger with the respective agencies. Because this also helps with fish flow, temperature, amount of water going into the river and what we can do.
I'd be glad to provide a presentation at a planning committee on something like this.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'm also interested in the storage and release practices for the further upcountry reservoirs that PG&E owns. So I noticed that there, at your last page of the report, that old reservoirs, Salt Springs, Lower Bear, those all seem to be around a third of capacity. What do we know about their normal practices in a year like this? Would we expect them to be holding more as the year goes on, or releasing more? How do we interact with them in a year like this?
Well, like every year, every day, we're in constant dialogue with what they're doing, so we know what to expect down here. What they're specifically doing varies based on which reservoir you're talking about. They've had a lot of maintenance issues. They have their own fishery flow requirements. They are preserving storage, I'm sure, to generate after May 1st for peak pricing. But yeah, and of course they're looking at the same snow information we're looking at. So they'll be full shortly.
And maybe very shortly, if this weather keeps up. Those are small reservoirs, they fill really fast. And they'll keep getting dumped, keep filling, and keep getting dumped and keep filling. That's what this snow is going to take till...
Two and a half months, yeah.
It's going to be a really long, a very long snow melt, unless it gets to be 100 degrees or something like that.
85 and 30, that's hot.
It's still going to take a long time. They're projecting flows on the Merced until August, which is unheard of. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of other items at board places, a little bit of a written update in the form of a memo on the status of our video recording pilot. Last we spoke, we had staff that thought that we'd be in a position to actually make it happen by early May. As it turns out, it's a little bit more challenging and we continue to learn, so we're pushing this into June before it might actually go online.
I had occasion to have somebody wanted hear part of the audio recording, so it was the first time I tried to send that to somebody, and it's great the way it's thumbnailed. It would be even better, I think, if there was actually a link that you could send directly from that instead of basically you've got to go to the board agenda page and send them that and say, look on the audio recording, then go to item, X, and it's, 23 minutes in or whatever it is. So it'd be great if you could just, click on. Do you know what I'm saying? I can show you.
Yeah, show me
I can show you.
that's how audio is set up.
But it was very helpful to be able to say that the person was very appreciative of being able to get the audio. I can only imagine that when we're able to provide video, that it will be even more so.
Often when we're communicating that, we would say that you can find the information at 10 minutes and 15 seconds in is when the discussion begins, or we give them a time and then you just cycle to the time, but we'll look into it.
Yeah, well, that is what I did, but I had to go, it was open on my screen, I was trying to click that tab that has all of the items and shows the times, but there's no link associated with that pop-up, I guess is what I was saying.
We'll explore that.
We could probably speed it up if we could find a teenager somewhere that has.
Yeah, summer's coming. Okay.
And then finally, thank you for letting me pause there. We have the updated Speakers Bureau at your places as well. That's all I have.
Okay.
I didn't know we had a YouTube channel. How long is that? Is this?
It's been up for, I want to say about 3 years. We have the employee videos for hiring. We have the employee videos for hiring, and we have videos related to work.
Oh.
I've been spending much time on YouTube lately.
No. What?
Not a teenager.
I watch dog videos.
Okay, on to reports and director comments. The planning, as I said, Planning and Legislative Human Resources Committee minutes were included in your packets. We are going to hear reports now from the Sustainability and Energy Committee and the Finance and Administration Committee. So, Director Linney, you have the report from the Sustainability Committee.
Sustainability and Energy Committee met this morning. Receiving information on the photovoltaic update, climate action policy, and that will be updated later on an energy policy as well, and then also an update on the wastewater biogas utilization. Good job, you did much better 2 weeks ago. I wondered what this specifically was for.
All right, and for the Finance Administration Committee, Director Patterson.
Yes, Madam President and board members. The Finance and Administration Committee met this morning to receive information on the quarterly financial reports, which were all intact, flying high in the water. The monthly investment transaction report was completed, and the investment policy annual review showed both long-term and short-term investments and standing. Finally, the electronic presentation and payment processing update was reviewed, and we saw the fine-tuning done in that regard, getting the best information to our ratepayers and ensuring that staff continue to follow that process, making that whole process accessible and in the interest of the ratepayer.
Thank you. Director Miller?
What's the interest rate we're getting on our money?
2.21 is the yield to maturity currently, and that's up from 1.75 a year ago and about 1.34 the year before. Right direction.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on finance or administration? Hearing none. Item 14, other items for future consideration. If you have any, please direct them to myself or the general manager. Actually, if you have them between now and May 21st, direct them to Director Linney and our general manager, as I will not be here in Oakland or accessible in any way from Sunday, this coming Sunday through May 20th.
I'll try and call.
So well, you could try. It won't do any good. Director comments? Director McIntosh? You wanna, I know you wanna.
I wanted to do,
Yeah.
You want me to wait until last?
Why don't we wait until,
All right.
why don't we save that for last? Director Patterson?
Well, my comments really relate to our wastewater area. Just wanted to say what a tremendous job is being accomplished under the R&R program. And going back to my days as president, you continue to have a high banner. I remember Governor Schwarzenegger recognizing us for the state award during that term, and the NACO award, which I went to Washington to receive on behalf of the district. You guys continue to carry the banner high, and you are appreciated. I wanted to make sure that was part of today's record. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we all share that sentiment. I had my ward briefing for Orinda, Moraga, El Sobrante, and unincorporated Richmond, and part of Pinole last week. And Director Patterson, Director Linney, and myself will be doing a joint briefing or joint ward briefing this Thursday. Any other director comments before I go to Director McIntosh? We lost one of our own recently, and serves in Director McIntosh's ward, so we'll let her.
Thank you, Madam President. Leonard Matt McNeil was a proud product of Richmond, California. He lived in West County for over 60 years, primarily in North Richmond and San Pablo. He graduated from Richmond High School, attended Contra Costa College as a student athlete, and earned an athletic scholarship in football to California State University, Fresno. He also received his master's in political science at San Francisco State University. Matt was a published author, a retired member of Iron Workers Local Union number 378, and a retired political science professor at Contra Costa College. He was elected to the West County Wastewater District Board in 2014 and served until his passing just last week. He served on numerous committees during his tenure and as a board president and leader. He was extremely proud of the changes made at West County Wastewater District during his time on the board. He also served on the West County Agency Joint Powers Authority Board and a California Association of Sanitation Agencies Communication Work Group. Prior to serving on the West County Wastewater District Board, Max served 12 years on the San Pablo City Council, where he was the city's first African-American mayor in 1992. While there, he was appointed to the West Contra Costa Integrated Waste Management Authority. He was vice president there. The East Bay Regional Communication Systems Authority, the Contra Costa Community College District Bond Oversight Committee, the Association of Bay Area Government, ABAG, and the League of California Cities Transportation. Communications and Public Works Policy Committee, and Community Services Policy Committee. Mac was a warrior for equal justice, a philosopher, educator, and a champion of our community. He will be missed. So, Madam President, I ask that today's meeting be closed in memory of Mr. Leonard Mac McNeil.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we will enjoy, unless there's any other comments, we will adjourn the meeting in honor of Leonard Mac McNeil, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you. And enjoy your holiday, Marguerite.
Thank you.